of these bomb threats. So are we expecting city manager at all? I don't know. Okay. Well, it's 4 o'clock, and so let us call to order the September 19th, 2022 Charlottesville City Council meeting. Ms. Thomas, will you call the roll, please? Do we have Councilor McGill? I should have checked before I started the meeting up.
She told me yesterday she would not be attending.
I know she wasn't going to be attending physically. I didn't know if she was planning on being on the call.
She said she was not. That was
Okay.
my understanding.
All right. Yeah, I know, last I heard there was a possibility that she might, but it was dependent on health issues. Okay.
We'll continue. Councilor Payne?
Here.
Councilor Beasley?
Here.
Here?
Vice Mayor Wade?
Here.
Okay, so we have 4 members present. Is there a motion to approve or to amend the agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. As always, our meeting will be divided into 3 main sections. The first part is a work session to hear and discuss presentations that will not involve a council vote. We will then have a closed meeting today starting roughly 5:30. So we're looking for this first portion of the meeting to take roughly an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. Then a council business meeting, which will begin around 6:30. There will be seating available here in the council chambers for up to 23 pre-registered attendees and media. Others are able to join electronically by Zoom. So we have 2 reports on the 4 o'clock agenda. First is from Jaunt, and second is from the Vibrant Community Fund update. I see Jaunt is up and ready to go. You ready to go to start us off? We're not hearing you.
We're seeing the report.
We're seeing your report. We're not hearing you. Ted, we're not hearing you.
Check.
Check.
So, we're seeing your lips move, Ted, but we're not hearing. Same for you, Misty.
Yeah. I think she can hear us, but
Yeah.
well, we can't hear you. Okay.
We did have a substitute tonight for Mr. Dillon.
Mm-hmm. Ted, we'll get to you. We're handling it on this end. It's not you.
I think
It's me. Yeah.
probably saw what the deputy city manager, I think, said they can hear him in the Zoom,
Oh.
but we can't.
Okay, so should we go in?
So, that sounds like a tech problem back behind us.
Yep, so we can go into,
Just we joined by Zoom.
okay.
Hopefully there won't be a feedback.
Hi, this is Remy Trail, the city's communications specialist.
Okay, now we're getting
Yeah,
somebody.
we hear,
I'm currently working on the problem.
oh, okay.
Anyone tuned in? Sorry about that. We'll get this figured out.
Yeah.
Could someone on Zoom try? Could someone on Zoom try talking now for me?
Okay, just heard something. Who is that?
So
Is something happening to make some progress here, or
I'm
what?
seeing something on the screen. I think Mr. Trail is working on it.
Correct. I'm trying different audio inputs right now. I'm trying to figure the problem out. What's going on?
The email for the Zoom link, did you get
Yeah.
that?
You forward it to you?
Yeah, please.
Well, I could like join as a panel. In other words, join with my audio.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
That's going to get feedback.
That was nice.
I don't know. Oh, I think you're logged into Zoom, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Audio off.
Well, it's the 4 o'clock one, it's the test one, so.
So I logged out. Is anyone else still in Zoom in here?
I am.
Just you? Do you want to try to use yours if the other ones of us are muted or not in Zoom?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
In other words, if you can join there and we can hear you through your computer, maybe that'll be good enough.
Is that going to satisfy the need to
Public.
get it out to the public?
Probably
I think there'll still be feedback on those,
Yeah.
unless those microphones are turned off.
Oh, boy.
Okay, could someone on the Zoom please try talking for me?
Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing. Testing, 1, 2.
I'm looking for one of our virtual participants.
Ted, could you try to say something?
Well, Misty,
Or for that matter, Mr. Rogers is on but muted. If you were to try to say something, that might help us figure this thing out. Mr. Rogers? Is there anybody on this call from Zoom? Through Zoom? So Ted, are you on the call at this point? We see your video. Can you try talking to us?
Mr. Kingston, are you able to hear me?
yeah.
Yes.
What it appears is that, and I know Mr. I am making an educated guess that it may be something with the audio that is actually wired into chambers that Mr. Trail is checking, but that's only my best guess, sir.
Well, now we can hear Ted. Do we think we're ready to have Ted give us a try here?
Can they hear us now?
Yes, Ted, can you speak for me,
Yeah, this
please?
is Michael Rogers. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can, Michael. Okay.
So,
Just testing.
why don't you go ahead?
All right.
Why don't you go ahead? Let's give it a try.
Straighten out shortly.
It sounds to me like we have it straightened out.
Yeah.
Now, we did hear both Ted and Mr. Rogers, but I don't know, I notice I'm not showing up on the transcription here. Are you all able to hear me at the other end?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you heard Ted? You heard Ted? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, do we need,
Okay.
is there any requirement that the transcript be accurate or anything? If there's not any requirement of the transcript, let's go ahead with Ted, because he's showing up on the transcript. Okay, now I'm showing up on the transcript.
You guys can do that?
All right,
Can you hear me?
yes, let's do this.
All right. I'll get started, if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for allowing us to make a presentation to you today to kind of give you an update on what's going on at John. Just to kind of remind you, our sole purpose for existing is to really empower people, give them independence in their lives. People want to have their own way of living, and we think our transportation service provides people that opportunity to live and work in our community, as well as receiving education and medical treatment. Over the years, John has accumulated a lot of resources to provide these services. I believe we do an excellent job in the community. That's because of our bus operators and our support personnel. Among our bus operator group, we have over 546 years experience of driving the community. We serve a 6-county area, plus the city of Charlottesville itself. And we think we're part of the economic web that brings all of us together. Last year was just ended in June 30. We transported someplace in the neighborhood of 40,000 riders for a variety of reasons. The two biggest reasons is either to make money or to spend money. 20% of our trips were employment related, 14% were shopping related, and 40% medical. And the combination of those really contributes to the economic viability of the community, and also the lives of the people who are affected. For many older people, we are a way out to the community. Many older people don't want to be dependent upon others to live their lives. And we give that an opportunity for them to do that. But also for the caregivers who do take care of the older people, an opportunity for them to maintain their work and their lives while their parents perhaps are able to access goods and services in the community. We believe we contribute to healthy outcomes by providing access to medical services, by getting people to preventative care and their treatments, hopefully avoids more serious medical problems later on. We also think we balance the economic playing field for people by providing opportunities to get to work. And as part of that, we think we contribute to equity in the community. For every dollar spent on transit, that dollar turns over 7 times in the community. So when we pay a bus operator, he goes shopping locally, and that in turn allows that retailer to employ people and therefore turn that money over. In another way, too, we think we can contribute towards affordable housing as well. There's a study by the Centers for Neighborhood Technology which says if you're spending more than 50% of your income on housing and transportation alone, that's putting you kind of in a difficult position. What transit can do is lower that percentage. We have people who may own automobiles, but they're kind of on the fringe of our economic activity, where they have to really choose between keeping a car on the road or paying the rent or getting healthy food for the kids or even buying shoes and other necessities of life. It's much less expensive to ride John than it is to own and operate a car. So if we can reduce people's transportation expenses, it allows them to not only afford better housing, but also the other necessities of life. So I think in that way, John balances the economic equation for many people. As part of our ongoing efforts to improve ourselves, we have several initiatives underway what I'd like to briefly talk to you about. First of all, we are exploring alternative fuel vehicles. Our fleet is mainly gasoline powered. We're looking at less polluting technology. We're looking at CNG, compressed natural gas, electric vehicles, as well as hydrogen fuel cells. We are working with the consultant Kimley Horn, who's also advising the CAT system as well. So we're trying to be on a parallel effort to see what opportunities may exist for Jaunt to reduce greenhouse emissions. Our goal is to reduce greenhouse emissions by 45% by 2030. We're also looking at Microtransit, which is also a service delivery method that CAT is looking at as well. Microtransit is like an Uber for transit. Our current service requires you to make an advanced reservation to ride it. As you may experience in Uber, you can book a trip almost immediately and get picked up. We think people's lives would be better served by a more spontaneous transportation system. And we're looking at doing that in different parts of our service area, not only in the city, but in the rural and suburban areas as well. We're also embarking on a 5-year transit plan to look at where the needs of the future may exist. This particular map shows the region, the six county region plus Charlottesville. The darker areas show areas that have the highest need for transit, and those needs are pretty much everywhere, including in Charlottesville itself. This focuses on Charlottesville. There are some significant pockets of transit needs, and there are other areas that are kind of less intense, but still there are needs of people within this zone to use Jaunt. This focuses on older populations, which is another group that we think has a need. There's one study that suggests that people over 70 have an accident rate almost as much as 16-year-olds. So while it's difficult to take the car keys out of mom and dad's hands, it may be best for everyone to give them an alternative so that they don't feel trapped at home or wherever they may be. So providing this opportunity, we think is a betterment for the community. Anyway, we'll be looking at these different metrics along other factors and looking at what does Jaunt in the future need to look like. This also focuses on persons with disabilities, which is a significant market for us in the city of Charlottesville. In addition to doing these studies, we're trying to market our services as well to recapture ridership that we lost during the pandemic. And let me see if I can play this commercial for you.
Pushing it, you know, trying to do anything too fancy. You can send us the link. I think I saw it actually right before I came today.
Can you see something on your screen that looks like a bus?
Nope.
No.
You're seeing me, huh?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can, here we go. Can you see a bus now?
Now we can.
Sure, you've seen us around,
Are you getting the
but
audio?
haven't been formally introduced
Yes.
Yep.
since 1975. Jaunt's professional operators have offered compassionate and inclusive transportation for everyone. And in the past 2 years, we have delivered essential workers to their jobs, taken patients with critical healthcare appointments, shuttled voters to the polls, and helped you stay connected. We are grounded in service to our community. Where can Jaunt take you?
We are playing this commercial and 2 other versions of it on local stations through the spring of 2023. We're using it to reintroduce people to Jaunt and to begin to stimulate ridership. We have seen an increase in ridership since starting in July. Part of that's probably due to the fuel prices, but also people coming out of COVID. So that's pretty much my presentation. I'm open to questions or comments.
Yeah, you had mentioned that that Jaunt was looking at natural gas, and I know that we got a presentation on that for the CAT buses. Seemed like several months ago, but there's a lot of obstacles, that have to be in place. And so I just wanted to know if you all are doing something different. Are you ahead of CAT, or you're in the same queue as CAT, or you're ahead? So where exactly are you with that?
Well, we're using the same consultant that CAT is. We're taking a little bit of a different approach. We don't have a preconceived idea of which technology to use. We're looking at CNG, electric, as well as hydrogen fuel cells. We have convened a citizens advisory committee to help us explore which of those options would be the best move for us. In fact, we're having a meeting this Thursday at 1 o'clock. If you want to join, I can arrange to send you a link. Where we are right now is the consultant has studied each of those options. We're going to explore the pros and cons of those options with our committee, try to get a sense of where we think we should be heading. Then the next step is to create some recommendations. The electric bus technology is interesting, though for smaller vehicles like we operate, the range is an issue. However, there may be some fast charging opportunities we can put out in the community that would help mitigate some of that. Hydrogen fuel cells is another interesting technology, but you need to be able to create hydrogen, which I'm not sure if the infrastructure is there yet, and CNG also requires an infrastructure investment as well. So we're kind of on a parallel path. I can't speak for CAT, but what we're doing is looking at the different technologies which we think are feasible, and we're going to take a thoughtful approach as to which way we ought to go, get some budgetary numbers and operating considerations, and with the advice of our community group, make a recommendation as to which way we should go on that.
Mr. Reich, I'm pretty sure that UTS, the university, is going with electric. I understand there's a project underway now to put in the infrastructure for charging over at Millmont. So I know you have a professional relationship with Ms. White over there. That might be worth your conversation as well. It'd be awesome if our 3 separate entities, maybe at some point they'll be under one authority, we'll see, but it'd be awesome if they could have similar powering, similar sorts of power in the ways that they're fueled.
Well, we do have representation from UTS on our citizens group, so they should be tracking what we're doing. The university has a different challenge than we do. They're kind of in a compact area, plus they operate larger vehicles, and larger vehicles have a longer range for battery electric. We operate over a 2,700 square mile area in our particular vehicles. The technology isn't there yet. But again, there are ways to hopefully offset that by creating charging stations out in the rural areas so that if the bus starts to run low, we can put it in and get it recharged pretty quickly. But we have extended invitations to them to participate, and we are trying to keep CAT informed as well. So with any luck, we'll all be kind of in the same, we'll be synced up on that.
Thank you.
I guess just a very broad question, but obviously we've got the regional planning activities for the regional transit vision plan and an upcoming study to follow that for the regional transit governance study about which I would expect would include a recommendation of creating a regional transit authority and incorporating on-demand transit. And just high-level question, what is Jaunt as an organization doing in terms of thinking about that future? Are you thinking about how you could be part of a regional transit authority? And are you planning for anything that's come from that regional transit vision study and the upcoming governance study?
Well, we're participants in the governance study and through the RTP work. And of course, there are different ways they can go about that, but we're open to discussion. The model that exists in the Richmond area has independent systems kind of being coordinated by an authority. So that's one particular model. Another model is a combined transit system, one agency doing all things. So a lot will depend upon what that study shows and what people's interest levels are in terms of how to proceed with that. For the on-demand transit service idea, we're doing a couple of things. One is CAT has received a demo grant to operate in Pantops and the Hollymead area for Microtransit. I'm not sure how they're going to procure those services. We're hopeful that John could be a proposer of that. We would have an opportunity to submit a proposal. And to that end, we have our own RFP out soliciting a partner who has microtransit experience to join us in a possible proposal to the city, the county, and PDC should they issue an RFP to get an operator for that service. I think if we partner with a reputable microtransit provider with John, I think we would make a very compelling team. We already operate in those areas. We have vehicles and we have drivers to serve all that. We're in pretty good shape in being able to launch that. The question will become, are we competitive cost-wise? Is our business approach suitable in whatever other factors that the parties would have? If we're not fortunate to be part of that demo, we will look at other opportunities to do that type of service. There is another demo project coming out of the Monticello area, which we could pursue. But we may look at some of our rural counties as well. So it is a service delivery mechanism we are looking at. We're hopeful we can join up with the county and the city on these demo grants, and we're preparing for that. Again, if those don't come to fruition, then we have other options as well. So.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree from my perspective, the more coordination and cooperation, the better. But no, that's all very helpful, and that's all I have.
I'm curious about one thing that is certainly a hot topic in plenty of other circles. How are you all doing on bus drivers?
We're doing all right.
In which case, what's your secret?
Well, we pay more than anybody else. I'm being a little flippant. Back in the spring, we were very aggressive in raising our rates. But I also think John has a good culture. We spend a lot of time and effort taking care of our bus operators. The first Saturday, October 8th, we're actually going to be celebrating our bus operators with an annual banquet recognizing them. Our board members will be there to help celebrate them. We try to do morale building things throughout the year. Our operation team pays attention to them. So, and the rest of the organization does the same thing. So we like to think we've got a very good culture, and we think we're a nice place to work. One of our goals is to become the employer of choice in the region. And so that dovetails with providing competitive compensation as well as a good work environment. I think we have ways to go on all those things, but I think that helps us out as well. And I don't say that to be critical of anybody else. I don't know the other places at all, but I think the combination, I believe, is helping us.
And then the other question I had was, you were brought in the wake of something of a financial scandal, and I am just wondering if you could bring us up to date on, are there consequences from that are still lingering? Have you got things figured out? I have a general sense that the ship is righted, but I also am aware that there may be complications that continue that we haven't heard of. Bring us up to date there.
Well, from a state, federal level, I think we're in good shape. We've been in communication with BRPT. We've addressed some issues that we felt were lingering from the past, and I think we have those behind us. And we are retooling our budgeting effort. We are starting on our FY24 budget already, and our strategy is to keep our funding partners, the city and the county especially, informed as to how those budgets are coming together. We're taking a different, more granular approach to our budgeting process. So when we ask you for money, we're going to be able to tell you what you're buying for. And there'll be much more transparency in our processes. So I think that'll be helpful. Again, we've been in communication with especially the county budgeting office. So I think we've made progress in those areas, and we'll continue to make progress by having a more transparent budgeting process. There are some funding challenges that we're looking at that we have tried to keep the parties informed. One of our biggest problems is that we receive federal money. Our main federal money goes for rural services, which creates a problem for our urban services, of which our ADA is part of it. We don't have enough federal urban capital money to meet our needs. We've got plenty of rural money, but not enough urban money. And that's going to create a challenge for the county and the city as we look at our capital needs. We've got some ideas on that, but it's going to be requiring us all to work together to address them. So by truing up our rural and urban funding from the federal level is going to create some challenges at the local level for providing services, which we've been keeping everybody informed on, and we're going to figure out how to deal with that.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Ted, before we let you go?
Not really. Sam did ask that I quickly address our governance issues. We're having an annual shareholders meeting on October 12th. Mr. Rogers is going to be a proxy for the city on that. We're revamping our governance documents, our articles of incorporation, our stock purchase agreement, and our bylaws. They're all mainly technical changes, but they're ones that will keep us syncing up our practice with our legal requirements. And we've been keeping our board informed about all those, as well as the city administration. So they're technical legal issues, and Mayor Stuck, I know you're an attorney, so it's probably something you might enjoy talking about, but I can get into that if you like, but I think I've kept the administration informed about it, and we'll be tackling those in October.
Okay. Well, it is less important to me that I know the details, and it is more important to me that somebody in city government whose job it is knows the details. So
Okay.
if
good.
you keep with them, I'm in good shape with you.
All right.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Okay, so the next up is going to be Misty Graves and Hunter Smith to talk about the Vibrant Community Fund update. Misty and Hunter, are you with us?
We are.
Can you hear us?
Okay.
I'm letting Hunter take lead on this one, so I'm going to be behind the scenes and sharing my screen.
Okay.
All right.
And there's Hunter.
Here I am.
Great.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. Again, I think I know everyone present. I'm Hunter Smith, Human Services Planner, Department of Human Services, and the last year took on one of the projects of the Vibrant Community Fund for this upcoming year. There has been, for the counselors here, since we've met, we haven't made any major changes, so it's pretty much the same thing you guys have already seen, although we did realize that we left in the timeline stuff that has already happened, so you can ignore that. So Miss, if you can scroll down a little bit to October 1. And so we're going to do a brief overview of the Vibrant Community Fund process going into this year, and I'll start with the timeline. So for the first 5 bullets, we completed most of that. We've been reaching out to community for recruiting team members. We've scheduled an orientation. We have some technical assistance folks that are going to work with us. And October 1st is a scheduled release of the application. And everyone from last year has been notified, and anyone new that's coming this year has also been notified of the application release date. And the 7th it will close. The December, and during the period of application time, we've told you this before, I think, that's the question and answer time as well, where we do any site visits for anybody asking for over 100,000. And it's a time for the review teams to communicate with the applicants about things that aren't so clear. And we can take some time to get to know them better. December, January, the review teams that we select read and score applicants and the applications. We meet virtually, may do some in-person or hybrid this year. We're not quite sure yet. I will add for the city councilors, we are doing a hybrid orientation. So there'll be an in-person option. It'll also be Zoom option, and we'll record it for anyone that can't make it. So we did make all that work out for those of you that were asking about that. February, we start getting everybody together after we're done with the review process. And March and April is when we create the report and we work together to finalize what the decisions are. I'm going to stick you scroll down to orientation and technical assistance. Anybody have any questions or comments on the timeline part?
Nope.
Great. As I said, orientations will be recorded, and we will share PowerPoint materials and any what we call parking lot questions or things that come up during the orientation that aren't addressed in the orientation. We'll collect those questions, answer them, and send everything out to everyone, including a scoring matrix. During the orientation, we will set up timeframes, the notification process. We'll walk through the Zoom grants process, talk about priority areas and categories, review budget expectations with our colleagues over in the budget office. There is a clean slate this time, so there's no asking for whatever you asked for the previous year. So we are doing what we call zero-based budget process. We will go over some technical assistance in the orientation, but we will have a separate diversity, equity, inclusion presentation / orientation, I believe the second week of October. October 4th is a scheduled orientation date. And I will send that invitation to everyone here as well, if anyone wants to join in. Thanks, Misty. Can you scroll up one more real quick, Misty, see what the topic was? Okay, yep, additions, scrolling down. So the additions this year, we are going to be asking applicants for a cost per participant analysis for people that apply to multiple localities, so that we can kind of look at what people are doing in other regions, just to kind of get a sense of what that is based on the request, from the city and other places where they may operate. We'll be doing site visits for anyone asking for 100,000 or more, and for all new and emerging applicants, which we will get to in a few minutes about what that category is. The quarterly report expectations and template review will be done during orientation. And then let's see, we will also add this time, our goal is to add a feedback summary for each review team, for each applicant that comes in. And so in the report, there will be some sort of joint statement that we're going to be providing to council as to where someone landed on the scoring matrix. Like I said, that's our plan. I'm not sure how it's going to go over. We're going to have to work on that. Could be some wordsmithing on that, but that's our goal this year, to try to provide some clarity and some transparency to the review process. Our review teams are comprised of as a diverse combination as we can make it. We have people with that maybe are consumers or lived experience in the priority areas, or with some of the applicants, consumers. Some people have nonprofit and grant writing experience. We also have staff from different departments that participate as well. And then we do our best we do all the conflict of interest questions, and we make sure people are put in categories where they may not, have a huge stake in what they participate in, or to try to keep people in the right groups. The review team orientation is similar to the applicant orientation. So we go over what the applicants are also learning, so that they're aware of what they're going to be doing when it's time to review. And they also will have an opportunity to participate in the DEI training as well with our community partners. And then we said that she will have a summary of constructive feedback as well. All right, Misty, thank you. And here's some other changes. So this year we have separated people into different kind of categories. So previously we were using the term contractual, and what we're going to call them now is intergovernmental, because that's kind of what they really are. These applicants are not scored by review teams. They're not technically part of the Vibrant Community Fund. So their funding doesn't come from the Vibrant Community Fund that we outlined at the beginning, but they just apply through the Zoom grants process, and then the budget team and the Human Services Department review those. And a lot of times it's in conjunction with the county if someone is applying to both. It's separate funding, but they do come through this process. Last year we called the second group essential, and now we're calling them fundamental. We changed that wording because that's a term we also use for importance level when we're doing the reviews. The fundamental applicants are not scored by the review team. They were reviewed by budget and human services staff in coordination with the county. And those organizations fall into the 1A category. So they receive whatever the highest level of, whatever the highest percentage of funding is that other groups receive due to the nature of what they do. And then the competitive, Misty, scroll down just a little bit, please. These are operational, and the three categories for the competitive groups this year, three main categories are education, youth, and families, health and safety, economic impact and jobs. And as you can see down the bottom, we also have an arts and culture component, which is done a little bit differently because of the nature of what they ask for. They don't really fit into the Zoom grant structure, so they do a little bit different process. And the affordable housing category we usually have in previous years is being moved to the CAF process. So they will be all like in a housing group, and the Vibrant Community Fund will no longer review those applications. Although there could be some overlap, and we'll work with the Office of Community Solutions. If there's somebody that maybe kind of, it's kind of hard to tell where they go, we will consult with them on that. And then we have a new and emerging category too. This is organizations that are 5 years old or younger. They will have an option in the online application to choose that. And so they will have to show that they are, that fit that category. And what that does is helps us kind of see who's newer, and we'll be able to do site visits for them and also try to work with them since they're newer and don't have as much history or as much data to produce, so that they get an equal share, an equal assessment for the Vibrant Community Fund process, so that we're continuing to, the city wants to continue to explore, develop, and recruit new organizations in this process. And this is a way that we found will hopefully be successful. And that's a new component as well. Funding determinations and council recommendations. Council can check in with us at any time that you guys want to know what's going on along the process. And we did, review some of this all with you already to give you a heads up. And again, just to reiterate that, we will be trying to provide a 1 to 2 sentence summary that outlines connects the score to what we can communicate about the process, so that council members, everybody here, has a chance to kind of understand what the review team is doing. And the Microsoft form template for quarterly reporting has been sent out to FY23 applicants. We will do the same thing for FY24, probably get some feedback from this year's applicants, make any adjustments we need to make. And that is a summary of the Vibrant Community Fund process for this coming year. We're just a couple of weeks away from releasing the application. So open for questions, comments, or concerns.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate the responsiveness of this group in terms of trying to improve the VCF process. I just came on this past year and going through the past budget season and some of the questions that arose during the VCF process. I appreciate staff really sort of buckling down and trying to figure out a way to do this, to continue to improve it. And that's what I see here. It seems more clear. It seems like it will work better. And so I appreciate the responsiveness.
Thank you. We really hope so. but it works out that way. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, I like to, concur with what Brian said. This is one of those processes that where, at least when I was reviewing this for many years, I wish I had this much clarity in it. And I know that this is, takes a lot of work, but it's a process that we get a lot of comments on. So when the process is clear like this and open, it makes it a lot easier for, at least for me, to respond. Thank you very much, and I just continue to hear great feedback from the community of your Misty's office openness to field questions, answer questions, and assist. So thank you all so much for your work.
You're welcome.
Yeah, likewise. I think a lot of positive changes have been made. The only additional question I have since our discussion a few weeks ago is, could you remind me what were the changes in terms of who was moved into the intergovernmental non-competitive category that wasn't there last budget cycle?
Well, the only thing that's brand new is the new and emerging. And so we had 2 of those last year. Last year they were considered, I forget what we called them last year. Misty might want to remind me. Remember? Not sure. But if you're talking about intergovernmental has always been there, Counselor. It just was kind of mixed in. We didn't really clearly separate it. And the fundamental groups was a change from last year. I don't have the list in front of me, honestly. I don't see it. And I don't want to go off memory because I look at these lists and these little subgroups all the time, and I have to look at it. So if it's okay with you, I could send that to you.
That's totally fine, because in my memory could be wrong. I just remembered, I thought, last year was contractual. This year, intergovernmental. There were a few changes in terms of what organizations are now, last year weren't under contractual, this year are now intergovernmental.
Well,
if
I
that
can
makes
answer
sense.
maybe more specifically. The issue there is really the intergovernmental are folks like, would be like Region 10. That would be people that are like, I think the health department is an example. People that don't really compete for the same, they have their own funding streams or funding sources. We just use the Zoom grants platform to have their applications submitted. And so we do that separately. And so if you're asking about the contractual intergovernmental, those are some of the bigger organizations that do lots of things. And I don't really have any, I don't really know even what their, where their money comes from. It's just kind of I think their time frames line up with vibrant communities. So we allow them to apply through the same process. So that may not answer your question at all. My best shot at it, but I will send you the lists. I just did them today. I broke down the list in the 3 groups. I can send that to you.
No, yeah, and I guess really the bottom line to my question is, if my memory is correct, there were a few organizations that were moved into that category who weren't there last budget cycle. And bottom line would be, I think it would be worth a serious conversation about whether CRHA should be included as one of those intergovernmental organizations. Last budget cycle, Council had discussed moving CRHA into a contractual agency at that time, and it happened at the very end of the budget cycle and just didn't come together. But I think as we enter into this upcoming budget cycle, it would be worth a serious conversation and consideration, just because they obviously occupy a pretty unique role as a quasi-governmental organization, not formally part of the city, but we've made a significant capital investment that I don't know if we've matched in terms of operational investment. And I wonder if that could be an avenue to just better formalize that relationship and provide them support, given how unique an organization and role within the city they play. But I know we had that conversation last year, and I think it would be worth having again, but early on in the budget cycle. But
I can follow up on that and let you know what I learned and see where the questions would lead. I can look into that. I made a note of it for you.
yeah, but that's all I have.
And I would just like to say that my goal out of the Vibrant Community Fund process is to make it so clear as to what has happened that counselors can look at each other and say, we got no problems with this. The last few years, there have always been issues of, for example, why it is that certain agencies just never have scored very well at your end of things, and they seem to be relying on coming and pressuring council in a political sense to make up for what might seem to have been deficiencies in the application process, and in their application, I should say. And one of my hopes is that we will not be in that situation, that they will have received enough guidance going in so that they're not going to have to say at the end of things, oh, gee, we didn't understand what you were looking for, or gee, if we had just understood that, perhaps we would have done something different in our application. I think we wound up spending a lot of time, both the last few years, the last 3 years, sort of relitigating things that, frankly, we shouldn't have been relitigating, that should have been clarified from the get-go. So I hope that you will, and it sounds like the direction you're headed with this is certainly the right direction. And I particularly like the notion of being able to get some feedback both to them and to us as to what deficiencies that you all see in the application, and why some application might have been downgraded relative to what they're now coming and telling us in open meetings that they really wanted to tell us beforehand. So I applaud that. I hope you will get as much information like that as possible and make it as available as possible so that we can understand and everybody can understand without having to have the meetings on the point.
Thank you. Councilor Payne, I was reminded of something. CRHA actually has moved into the CAF housing process, actually. So they're one of the ones that moved from the Vibrant Communities into the CAF housing organization. So I can follow up with them, but they are actually not part of this year. And so I'm not 100% sure how that process works, but I can.
Yeah, and I guess there's just more conversation to have. I know that
Yeah.
they've been included in this process a couple budget cycles ago, when they hadn't before. They submit multiple different kinds of requests. But I guess the bottom line is the purpose of their proposal last year that we discussed on council is to provide and permanent ongoing support based on the number of units that they're managing to cover basically that operational expense. Whether that is under the CAF or not, I guess is something we still have to, if every single request they make is going to be under CAF, or whether some are not, I guess maybe isn't fully settled. But the bottom line to me is, how can the city provide more permanent, stable operational support based on how many units they're managing and the cost per unit?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the last thing I need to remind you of is the website has been updated with as much up-to-date information as possible. So the information's been changed, and we're going to work to keep up with that. Also, if you check it, it should all be updated.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? So last year, did the Jefferson School and all of that piece, was that part of the VCF? Do I have that? Is that memory wrong?
Well, it was not funded through VCF. They raised the issue at about the same time that the VCF discussions were taking place. And we basically decided that we were going to deal with it not as part of the VCF process. Which actually, this highlights another point, which is that I hope that by spending a little bit more time and paying a little more attention right now, we can make it clear to folks who might want city money for some purpose that this is the way they should be approaching it, not coming to council off budget, out of cycle, saying, oh, we want $100,000 from you. Because that's not a good way for us to be doing business, and it's not a good way for the organization to be doing business. Sometimes I think that they were daunted by or didn't understand the VCF process, and so they figured they had a better shot to come to us directly rather than going through the process. But by having made that process now so much more transparent, I think, I would encourage anybody out there who thinks they're going to want city money for some nonprofit of yours, get signed up, get ready to go with the VCF process.
So the film festival and the book festival, were they funded through this last year?
Yes, they come through the arts and culture portion of it, which is a smaller portion, and it's just it's executed a little differently because the nature of the application is a little bit different than the other priority areas, and so it's the same general time frame, same general process. It's just like a technical difference in how they apply.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Thank you all. I think that's it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. And so, council, we are actually ahead of our schedule, which is good. And the next item on our agenda is to go into closed session. Is there a motion to go into the closed session?
Yes, I have that here. Pursuant to Section 2.2-3712 of the Virginia Code, I hereby move that the City Council close this open meeting and convene within a closed meeting as authorized by Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 for discussion and consideration of appointments by council to various boards and commissions.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. City Council will now go into closed session. We will return to a different link, a separate link for the open meeting. And with any luck, that'll be at 6:30. So we're in recess, or actually into closed session for now. We'll see everybody back in an hour and a half.